I mean, Cividep was basically a response to globalization and the kind of expected marginalization of large sections of workers. We started working with the garment workers, even before Cividep was formally inaugurated.
We support grassroots organizations in building their capacity, in being able to negotiate with the management, in understanding the laws, understanding what their entitlements are as associations or as workers.
We also specifically look at workers who are employed in what is called as global supply chains.
Starting from cotton fields, so where cotton is grown, farmers pick the cotton. Those are the cottons are cleaned and ginned and made into yarns, and then spun into threads. These threads are then made into fabric. Fabric is then shipped to some other location to cut and make into a garment, and this garment is then shipped to warehouses of the company at different locations.
The brands, the design happens in the West, and the actual manufacturing happens in Asia and Africa to a limited extent.
So I think the global supply chain sort of is a way of understanding where the things we own or we wear come from, and the importance to understand that that is all being made largely in the developing world, and in this case in the group Cividep works with, by marginalized workers.
And because it is all over the place, it is headquartered in Europe, it is producing in different countries, not just India but in several other locations. It is reaching out to many other locations, so it is global in nature.
And you find global supply chains in many sectors. We primarily look at 4 sectors: the garment sector, the electronics sector, the leather sector, and to some extent the plantation sectors.
And in all these sectors, if you see the workers, there are decent work deficits. The workers work in very poor conditions. The wages are low. The workers are not organized. So our strategy is to support workers to organize so that they represent themselves, and they also engage in dialogue and negotiations with their employers as well as government agencies.
Because these supply chains are really opaque, they're really dispersed, really spread out, and so there is no one oversight of any one particular body, neither the government nor the final brand which makes the most profit out of all of the work that happens in the supply chain.
The biggest problem is that most workers think that they are alone in the problems that they are experiencing.
There are a lot of dynamics when it comes to working at the factory level. One is, of course, gender. There are issues of caste. There's also issues of gender identity. For example, trans women who work in factories face a lot of discrimination as well.
These are just not things which traditional trade unions have been engaged with. So there was a huge vacuum in that space for organizations like Cividep to step in.
It proved right. Looking now, the inequalities have increased. So this was the context in which we started at the end of the 90s.
20 years that Cividep has been around, we've expanded quite a lot.
இப்போ உலகமே வேலை நிறுத்தம். பறவைகளை தவிர மீதி எல்லாருக்கும் சுதந்திரம் கிடையாது. பறவைகளுக்கு மட்டும் தான் அந்த காலகட்டத்தில் சுதந்திரம் இருந்தது.
லாக்டவுன் அனௌன்ஸ் பண்ண உடனே பஸ் எதுவுமே ரன் ஆகாதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. இங்கேருந்து நான் ஊருக்கு போகணுன்னா கூட எங்கன்னா ஒரு வண்டியோ ஒரு வேனோ பால் வண்டியோ லாரியிலோ அதில் கை போட்டு தான் போக வேண்டியதாக இருக்கும்.
It was a crisis. For everyone it was a crisis, and nobody knew how long it's going to continue, and you are afraid of the virus. So this entire atmosphere of fear, helplessness, lack of income, and all the routine disrupted. Children are not going to school, they are at home. Your husband who used to go, a painter, an auto driver, he is hanging around at the house, so the entire social dynamics changed.
Whatever little savings that the workers had in the form of PFs, used that to get by in the month of the lockdown. So the workers cope, but it leaves an irreversible mark on their bodies, on their lives.
சின்ன தலைவலி சொன்னா கூட வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பிச்சிட்டாங்க, கொரோனா வந்துடும் சொல்லிட்டு எந்த பெனிஃபிட்டும் கிடையாது. பயந்துக்கு நாங்களும் போய் கேட்க மாட்டோம். சரி வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பிச்சிட்டாங்கன்னா கொரோனா இல்லைனாலும் வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பிச்சிட்டோம், கொரோனா வந்துச்சு அது வந்துச்சுனால நாங்கள் எதுவுமே கேட்கறதும் கிடையாது.
I don't think people realized the huge composition of workers that run our cities, that run our economy. It took a global pandemic to make them visible. About 90% of them are in informal workforce.
We're documenting this so as to use it as evidence for advocacy. We also represent these issues on various international forums.
Cividep is an organization that thinks a lot about how to really empower workers as a collective.
So organizations like Cividep are required because unions are dwindling. Even the ones which are present, they do not have enough resources to develop or increase their knowledge. So, and that is where the role of organizations like Cividep come into play, where they can garner resources to make research studies or have connections with international networks, with campaigning organizations or businesses, and use the pressure to make some changes in the industry in India.
மிகச்சிறந்த களப்பணியாளர்களை வந்து சிவிடப் கொண்டு இருக்கிறதா நான் பார்த்தேன். இதெல்லாம் வந்து லெசன் எங்களுக்கு வந்து சிவிடப் கிட்டேருந்து கிடைச்ச மிகச்சிறந்த பாடங்கள் படிப்பினைகள் நிறைய விரிவாக்கத்துக்கு உதவி பண்ணியிருக்கிற போல தான் நான் அதை பார்க்குறேன்.